Yo, what's up everyone? Here we are for another Crafting Dead recap, and here we have the Crafting Dead Season 4 recap. This is the first season I would say is the golden age or the new age of the Crafting Dead. And what that means is this is the first season where we had an actual script with actual lines and actual scenes, and like I would write them out and then we would act the scenes out and people would like say their lines and they would also improvise the lines and all that. So this is the first season where we do this. This is also 2 years after season three, which if you've seen the other recaps, I've said this a lot, but this season is 2 years after. So everyone's gonna look a little bit different. Not like I'm playing any clips. Everyone sounds different, but still. Yeah, that's really all. I don't got much to say. Let's just get into this recap and let's go. The season starts with Lucas and Dragon walking up on a single zombie and killing it. Lucas then starts talking about how they haven't been seeing too many zombies and how they are also running low on food. Lucas then proceeds to say they may need to leave soon because they can't really grow crops. Dragon says how are they going to convince Jojo, and Lucas says Jojo most likely will agree to move, but Mr. P and Tara may not follow. They both head back and go talk to Jojo. When they enter, they tell Jojo how the city is amazing and everything, but they don't have much food and they may need to leave. Jojo says them not having food is true, but how are they going to convince everyone else to come with them, and where are they going to go if they do leave? Lucas says they gotta make a new plan, and Jojo brings up how Mr. P and Tar probably won't go with them. Lucas says it's better if they leave now because they have supplies, and if they wait to leave, they won't have anything to bring with them, and they're gonna struggle really bad while looking for a new place. Jojo says they shouldn't leave Mr. P and Tar because they need strafe in numbers, and they don't want to abandon the bond they have with each other. So they shouldn't leave him, and he just also doesn't want to be like Fire. Lucas then brings up how Jojo is stuck on Fire, and Jojo agrees by saying Fire left out of nowhere and what he did was wrong. Lucas says he didn't harm any of them when he was able to, so that's a plus for Fire leaving, and Jojo says they can't be like him, but he's gonna go talk to Mr. P and Tar. Dragon and Lucas leave the room while Jojo goes to the barracks and finds Mr. P inside. Jojo says he needs to talk to Mr. P about the situation with the food and then tells him how everyone else wants to leave the city. He then adds on how he wants Mr. P and Tar to follow. Mr. P says what if there's more deaths, and Jojo says if he needs to he will sacrifice himself for everyone's safety. Mr. P says he's going to talk to Tar to see what he thinks. Jojo tells Mr. P that what he said is a promise to everyone and leaves the room. Sometime later, Tar enters the barracks and Mr. P asks Tar if he remembers how they planned to leave if the group was struggling. Tar starts saying that Mr. P is scared of taking a risk and he needs to take one by staying with the group. He also adds how he took a risk joining the military years ago and how Mr. P took a risk looking for him after he crashed on the island, so he needs to take a risk now. Mr. P says he can't lose anyone else and especially not Tar. Tar brings up how they can easily get overpowered if they get attacked by a group of people, and they can't leave the group either because Dragon is a kid and that would be too much for Jojo and Lucas to take care of alone. Tar says they should stay with them because they already know them, and Mr. P finally gives in and agrees. It cuts to Jojo looking around in the hangar with Mr. P walking up behind him. Mr. P tells Jojo he's putting a lot of trust in him, and Jojo says they should group up with everyone and make a plan. They all walk up to each other and Jojo asks for ideas, and everyone gives ideas saying they don't have time to waste. When Dragon pitches in, saying he knows where a map is. Tara asks where it is, and Dragon says it's somewhere near the docks. Before they get the map, Jojo asks everyone if they are all sure they want to leave, and they all agree. Jojo sends out Dragon and Lucas while the other three gather up everything they have. When Dragon and Lucas show up to the building with the map, Dragon goes inside to grab it and gives it to Lucas. Lucas says they should head to Coastal View because it's the nearest city, and they head back. When they get back, Lucas suggests the city they go to and agrees. They all decide to leave the city now since they don't want to waste any time. When they get to the mountains, Lucas stops and starts reminiscing about Nathan and Zolan and all that they have been through in this city. Mr. P says they should use the city as a learning experience and move on from it, and Lucas agrees. Jojo tells everyone they should all go because they have a long journey ahead of them. It cuts to the group a couple of days later when Lucas says he sees a building in the distance. They all run up to the city and Jojo stops them all by saying they need to be careful just in case zombies hear them or even people. Jojo then says they can use the building they are next to as a base for a while until they can scope the city out. They all check the buildings and set up base. It then cuts to Jojo walking inside at night to wake up Dragon as he tells him it's his turn to watch over everyone as they sleep. Dragon goes outside to stand guard as he sees someone on the other side of the city and he starts being curious and chases after them from afar. This episode starts with a mysterious man walking in the street. The man then walks into a building nearby and the camera shifts to show Dragon sitting behind a bush watching the whole time. The man walks out with a bow ready in his hand, checking the area, and after a while he proceeds to leave the building and walk away. Dragon takes that time to run up to the building to see what was inside and finds a chest with a lot of loot inside. Dragon decides to take some stuff and starts to head back. It cuts to the next day with Jojo asleep when Tara wakes him up. Tara tells Jojo that he has something to tell him, so they both head outside where everyone else is waiting. Lucas tells Jojo how Dragon stole stuff from the building and Mr. P adds that it was also on watch. Jojo asks Dragon why he left everyone when he was supposed to be on watch, and Dragon says he saw a guy and followed him. And Mr. P responds and says the point of being on watch is to protect the people asleep. Everyone continues talking about how he could have potentially put them in danger by stealing from someone, and how they could also have a group. They also say the stuff he stole, they could eventually find out it's gone and go looking for it. Dragon tells everyone that they could bring everything he stole back to where he first got it from. Mr. P says it's too late because they could have already found out and it would put them in a bad position. Mr. P then says they should have stayed in the old city they came from, and Lucas says they obviously couldn't because of the food problem. Tar jumps in to say Mr. P doesn't want to lose anyone, and Dragon interrupts all of them. Lucas suggests they go back to see if anyone found out, so Jojo, Dragon, and Lucas head out while Mr. P and Tar stay. It cuts to Mr. P and Tar walking back inside. Mr. P gets frustrated with Tar, saying, why did he tell everyone about something that should have been between them? Tar says they need to have trust in Jojo and to stop arguing all the time. Mr. P brings up how Zolan and Nathan died and how he doesn't want to lose anyone else. Tar responds by saying they need to trust Jojo and what he decides to do next because back in the old city he saved everyone else by blowing the ice bridge up, so he tells Mr. P to believe in him. Tar doesn't let Mr. P respond and turns around and walks out. We go back to Jojo and they are close to the building and see a few zombies outside. They kill all of them and Jojo tells Dragon to put all the stuff back while him and Lucas kill the rest of the zombies. While killing them, Jojo tells Lucas how they should stay on the outskirts of the city to see how many people live here and to see if they are dangerous or not. Jojo walks inside to tell Dragon to hurry up and Dragon comes out. Jojo asks if he kept some food to at least survive off of and Dragon said he did. Jojo says they need to hurry just in case the guy comes back when a zombie sneaks up behind Jojo and Lucas jumps to save him. They kill the zombie and start to head back. When they get back, they see Tar standing outside and Jojo asks Tar if he spoke to Mr. P. Tar told him that Mr. P is having a hard time and he's just going through a lot. Jojo asks if they should leave him alone and Tar agrees. Tar asks if they brought the stuff back and Lucas said they did but kept some of the food. Jojo says they should be careful when it comes to the new people inside the city and if they have to, they should follow them back to their base. Lucas says if they do that, then Dragon shouldn't do it at all. Jojo agrees because it would be way too risky for him, and Lucas asks if they should wait until night to see if the guy shows up again. Jojo says they should do that, and Tar goes to tell Mr. P about the plan. Dragon says they should all go together, and Jojo starts to think about it and says it might be a good idea because Dragon is the only one to know who the guy looks like, and they can also see if someone else shows up to determine if it's a different guy or not. Tar disagrees with the idea because sneaking around with a group is a bad idea. Jojo says Dragon and Tar should go if they aren't going to go with the group. Tar says that's a good idea and goes to tell Mr. P about it. Tar walks in and walks to Mr. P. Tar asks Mr. P if he is good and Mr. P says yeah and apologizes for earlier. Tar tells Mr. P the plan for later tonight and Mr. P starts to say Dragon could mess up again because he's a child. Tar tells Mr. P that Dragon won't mess up and he will make sure of it. But then Mr. P says you never know and Tar gets angry and asks why does Mr. P never trust him. Mr. P says it's not that and Tar gets angry and says that Mr. P never acted like that and how Mr. P didn't act like that when he was drafted in the military. Tar also brings up how it was never safe for him in the military, and Mr. P says nothing has rules anymore, and Tar just asks for Mr. P to trust him. Tar continues on, saying even if Mr. P doesn't trust him, he's still going through with the plan no matter what, and leaves the building. Tar then walks up to Jojo and Dragon, and Tar tells him they should go find a spot. Jojo asks if Tar is okay and if something happened, and Tar says it's nothing that can't be fixed with time. Jojo then says they should go find the spot and tells them to be careful out there. Tar and Dragon head off while Jojo stays behind. Jojo then goes to Mr. P and asks if he's okay. Mr. P sighs and says he really hopes he knows what he's doing. Jojo tries to reassure Mr. P and says everything can work if everything goes to plan. Mr. P says if anything happens to Tar, then it's on Jojo's hands and threatens to kill Jojo if Tar doesn't come back. Jojo tells Mr. P that he will keep a promise and Tar will come back, and then he leaves the building. Tar and Dragon get close to the building and they get behind some bushes. Tar says they should wait for now and to see what happens. It then cuts to Jojo asleep when he is woken up by a mysterious voice. When he wakes up, he sees a guy with the bow pointed at him and Lucas behind him. Lucas tells Jojo not to do anything and also tells him that Mr. P got knocked out. The guy leads them outside to see a guy standing next to Mr. P. Lucas starts asking why are they doing this, and the guy tells the other one to call the others and knock these two out. The guy knocks Lucas out and walks to Jojo saying he's sorry and knocks him out as well. This episode starts with Jojo waking up to be in a lineup with everyone else. He looks forward and sees two of the people from last night and a new guy. The guy starts talking and saying how it's not nice to steal from him. Jojo says they didn't steal anything and Lucas tells them to give it up because they know. The guy then asks them who was the one to steal from him. No one speaks and the guy says he's going to have to cut everyone's tongues out. Lucas speaks up and says it was him who stole. Tar tries to speak to Lucas when the guy stops him. The guy notices that Tar is wearing a military uniform and asks if he was in the army or not, and Tar gives him a smart reply and Mr. P jumps in telling him to leave him alone. The guy walks over to Mr. P and Mr. P tells the guy he won't be safe once they escape. The guy tells Mr. P he could do anything he wants to him, so he suggests Mr. P keeps his mouth shut. He then looks over at Tar and takes him out of the line. Mr. P tells him to leave him alone and the guy gives Tar a bow and tells him to shoot Mr. P. Lucas and Jojo jump in and tell him not to do it. The guy continues to tell Tar to shoot Mr. P, and Tar tells him that he can't do it. Tar sits there not talking while the guy pressures Tar to do what he has to do to live. Tar drops the bow saying that he can't. The guy aims the bow at Tar and quickly turns around and shoots Mr. P. Mr. P survives the shot and Tar gets up but is pushed down by the other guy. Jojo looks to the main guy and tells him that they don't want trouble and begs them to stop. He says you should have thought about that before they stole from him. The guy looks at his people and tells them to let Mr. P bleed out, and Tar screams at him to save him because it's his brother. The guy says if he lets him die, then he wouldn't be able to get what he wants from Tar, so he tells the other guy named Crackle to save him, but not to use too much supplies on him. Crackle then tells the other guy, Keen, to knock them all out. Keen walks to Jojo and knocks him out. It cuts to Jojo waking up in a room with Dragon and Mr. P. Jojo asks where everyone else is and they don't know. Mr. P then brings up how Jojo promised to keep everyone safe, so why is he shot and everyone else is gone? Jojo says, how did you expect for any of this to happen? And Mr. P says that Jojo was going to take the blame if anything happened, so why did he let Lucas take the blame for Dragon stealing the supplies? Jojo then tells him how he was scared to die, so that's why he didn't take the blame. Dragon stops him by saying they need to find a way to escape the room they are in. Jojo suggests they have Mr. P fake something since he's already hurt. Mr. P says why should he trust Jojo, and Dragon says they should try it or else they might die. Jojo brings up how they need to at least try to escape. Mr. P says how will he get out when he's hurt, and Jojo says they could escape and come back for the rest later. It goes to Tar waking up in a random room and he sees the main guy walk up to a window. Tar asks what happened to everyone else, and he says that everyone is fine besides the blonde guy because he's getting a punishment for stealing. Tar then asks about his brother, and the guy says he's not fine, but he's alive. Tar threatens him, and the guy doesn't get intimidated by him, but instead shows interest in him. The guy then threatens Tar by saying he can kill all of his friends if he wants to. The guy then tells Tar how he was in the military and they have no problem with killing a man. Tar says he kills because he has to, so they are nothing alike. The guy says they are alike and says that he has to go because he needs to go check up on the blonde guy. Tar runs to the window telling him not to hurt Lucas. The guy then walks into a room with Lucas and wakes him up. He starts asking Lucas if he truly was the one to steal, and Lucas says that he did, but he wants the rest to go. Lucas tells him how he was the only one to steal and how he's the mastermind behind it all. The guy says he heard all he needs to hear and turns around to tell Crackle to not to do too much to him, but make it snappy. The guy walks out the door while Lucas starts to scream. It cuts to Keen walking up to Tar's window to check up on him. Keen tells Tar how he isn't like any of the others, and Tar asks why does he stick with them. Keen says he has no choice because he's gonna be alone and he has no one. Tar then asks Keen where his brother is, and Keen says the doctor they have fixed him up and also tells him that the guy has an interest in Tar. He then says he might keep all of his friends alive to shape Tar into the guy that he wants him to be. He continues on by saying if he wants everyone to stay alive, he needs to listen to the main dude. Keen gives him one final warning before walking away. It goes back to Jojo, Mr. P, and Dragon, and Jojo asks Mr. P if he's okay with faking like he's hurt. Jojo hides in the corner and Mr. P screams while Jojo and Dragon call out for someone to help. After a while, someone runs in and Jojo knocks him out from behind. Jojo grabs Mr. P and tells Dragon to lead the way while he carries Mr. P. Jojo asks for help to move Mr. P faster and they continue to walk through the building. They walk outside and see someone with the bow waiting, and Dragon quickly jumps in front of them to shoot him with the bow he got off the guy earlier. Dragon kills him and everyone is shocked. Even Dragon. And Dragon says he didn't mean to, but Mr. P says it doesn't matter and they need to go. The next scene is Crackle running up some stairs, calling out for a guy named Jack, which is the guy who shot Mr. P and is the main dude. Crackle tells Jack how 3 people escaped and how they also lost someone. Jack gets angry and yells at Crackle, asking how they got out and managed to even kill someone as well. Crackle says he doesn't know, but there was a guy who was knocked out and how he tortured him for letting them escape, and he also can't speak. Jack gets angry at Crackle for acting without his permission and for also messing up their only way of getting information on the people who escaped. Jack tells Crackle if he acts out again, he will have to pay with his own blood and walks off. It goes back to Jojo carrying Mr. P down the staircase with Dragon behind. Mr. P tells him how he can't make it that far and Jojo suggests they take a break for a while, but they need to hurry and continue to move later on. Dragon asks where are they gonna go and Mr. P says they need to save everyone else. Dragon brings up how they need to find where everyone else is to begin with. Jojo follows up with saying they could be going against a lot of people and Mr. P is hurt and Dragon is also a child so they couldn't do much. Mr. P starts blaming Jojo for everything again and Jojo starts to argue with him when Dragon interrupts them again and Jojo suggests they get ready to leave just in case a search party is looking for them. It then cuts to Jack running into Tar's room, threatening to kill him, but he doesn't have any other way to get everyone who escaped back without him. Jack then asks Tar if he wants to show up to a special event that he has planned and has Tar turn around so he can put handcuffs on him. He puts handcuffs on him and walks him out of his room. They end up walking to a barn with a bunch of walkers inside. Jack walks up to a guy who was knocked out earlier in the episode and tells Tar this guy would be used as an example and brings him up to the wall and pushes him in. The guy gets ripped to shreds as Jack laughs. He then tells Tar that will happen to him as well, but not anytime soon. Jack tells Crackle to set up search teams to find the people who escape, and Crackle walks away to do so. The episode ends with Jack telling Tar that his friends will need to be punished. This episode starts with Keen walking and Crackle calling for him. Keen turns around and Crackle tells Keen him and Michael are going to be doing Patrol 3. Crackle also tells Keen not to kill the people who escape if they find them. It goes to Jojo asking Mr. P if he's ready to go because they need to continue moving. They leave the building and start walking down the street when Dragon tells them to wait and be quiet. A voice calls out to them saying they are nice and they want to help. Mr. P whispers to Jojo saying he doesn't trust it at all, and Jojo says he knows that voice because it's the guy who knocked him out, and he also brought up how he said sorry to him that one night. The guy continues talking and says there is a house they can hide at that isn't on any patrol paths far away, and the doctor is also there as well. Jojo yells out and says how would they know they are safe, and another voice speaks out to them saying he can break their blonde friend out. Jojo asks why should they believe him, and the guy says he knows where the brother is, but they won't be able to save him anytime soon. Mr. P says he doesn't trust any of it, and Jojo runs around the corner to confront them. He turns the corner to see Keen and the doctor named Michael. They both tell him how they don't like Jack and how he treats their people, so they are willing to help them. Keen also tells Jojo how Jack killed someone recently by throwing them into a zombie pit. Michael tells Jojo that they only have the zombie pit to kill people, no other purpose. Jojo asks why are they helping him, and Keen says they needed to find people to take a stand against Jack. Dragon turns a corner and asks Michael what Jack does to Lucas. Michael tells him that he tortures Lucas so next time he goes to check up on him, he can break him out. Jojo asks how can they get Tar, and Keen says he will figure that out, but Jack won't kill Tar because he sees himself in him. Keen tells him that the house they should head to is behind a huge mountain, and Michael says if they ever want to meet again, then they can meet at the same place. They both walk away, and Dragon asks if they can trust him, and Jojo says if they wanted us dead, then they would have killed us. Then they get ready to make it to the house. The next scene has Jack and Tar walk back into Tar's room, and Jack takes the handcuffs off. Tar tells Jack that he is messed up, and Jack said he only killed the guy to put fear into everyone in his group to keep them in check. Jack starts reminiscing about his time in Afghanistan when he scared a bunch of kids and brings up how Tar would kill those kids to see his brother again if given the chance. Tar says he wouldn't like it, and Jack says that he would still do it and says that they really are alike. Jack then leaves the room. Michael and Keen get back to Crackle waiting for them, asking why they took so long. Michael said they fought a few zombies on the way there, and Crackle tests them on their knowledge of the routes and let them go on. It goes to Jack walking into the room that has Lucas in it, and Lucas says he won't get shit from him. Jack says he doesn't want anything but for him to pay for what he did. Lucas asks if he's gonna torture him again, and Jack asks him if he's scared. Lucas says he can't be scared of someone who doesn't show their face. Jack then wonders how Lucas made it so far with him being so naive and stupid, and how he should be scared because he's like a god to him and he controls everything about him. Jack pulls out a sword and says he could kill Lucas, but he would rather break him than kill him right away, and leaves the room. It goes back to Jojo and Dragon helping Mr. P get to the hidden house. They climb all the way up to the entrance of the house and get inside. Dragon says they should look around for supplies since they don't have anything besides a bow. Jojo suggests he goes alone to the storage building to grab supplies and bring them back. Jojo asks for the bow from Dragon and he gives it to him and heads out. Crackle walks up to Tar saying that Tar has grown a reputation, saying that Jack has grown a liking to him. Tar says pity me and Crackle yells at him and says he doesn't know what he sees in Tar. Tar continues to be cocky and Crackle brings up how he is Jack's right-hand man, but he plans to take over and kill Jack and lead his own way. Crackle tells Tar if he gets in his way, then he will kill him and walks away. Michael walks up to Jack and asks him if he needs to fix up Lucas, and Jack says no, not yet. He wants him to suffer for a while. Michael asks if he's sure, and he doesn't want Lucas to die in them, and Michael asks when does he need him so he can patch up Lucas. Jack asks Michael why he's asking so many questions, and Michael says he needs to know so he can ration medicine and supplies properly, and Jack says he can see him sometime tomorrow. Keen walks up to Tar and tells him how he met everyone else on patrol and led them to a house to keep them safe, and how they're also going to break Lucas out. He then adds out by saying he can break Tar out, but not yet because Jack is always nearby and his room is in a bad spot. Tar says thanks to Keen, and Keen walks away. It cuts to Keen inside a building and Jack walking inside to ask why Keen has been talking to Tar so much. Keen says they talk about their past and how he sees something in him too, and how he can also be very useful. Jack says he knows because he changed Keen and he can change Tar as well. He walks to the door and tells him to get back to his post and walks out. Jojo is walking to the building when he sees zombies next to the building. He kills all of them with the bow and gets inside to grab everything inside the chest, which is filled with weapons and food. He quickly runs out and gets away before anyone sees him. When he gets back to the house, he sees Dragon outside and tells him how he got food and tools. Jojo drops some things to Dragon and tells Dragon that he's going to take watch so he can go back inside, and tells him to be prepared for tomorrow. This episode starts with Jojo waiting for Keen and Michael to show up when he sees them and he goes up to him. He asks what they have for him and Michael gives him medicine and food. Jojo then asks them if the hospital that they escaped from earlier is part of their main base that they use, and Keen says it's the hospital and the 4 other buildings on top of the hill. Keen also tells Jojo about the farm that has the huge hoard inside of it. Michael then tells Jojo that Lucas is in the movie theater and Tara is in the motel. Jojo takes the new information and heads back to Mr. P and Dragon. Crackle then walks up to Tar, and Tar talks first and asks Crackle if he thinks he's going to take his spot. Crackle gets angry immediately and says he worked very hard for the spot he is currently in, and if Tar thinks he's going to let him take his spot, then he's stupid. Tar then says Crackle can't do anything to him because Jack would obviously know. Crackle tells Tar to wait because Jack isn't fit to lead, so the only option is for Crackle to take his spot. Tar threatens to tell Jack about it, and Crackle says he will regret telling Jack anything because his friends and brother will die. Crackle then turns around and walks away. Keen and Michael get back and see Crackle waiting next to the hospital. Keen asks Crackle where's Jack, and Crackle tells him that Jack made Crackle in charge of taking reports, so whatever they have to say, they can say to him. Keen tells Crackle about the storage building not having anything in it, and Crackle asks if they checked around to find the people who escaped. They tell him no, and Crackle asks if they checked the beach house. Keen says no patrols go over there, and he doubts any of the escaped people will know that the house is over there. Crackle asks them if they wouldn't mind if they sent a patrol over there to check, and Michael says they wouldn't mind. So Crackle says he's going to send a patrol over as soon as they get back, and then he walks away. Keen and Michael turn to look to each other, and Michael suggests he breaks Lucas out now to cause a distraction and warn the rest. Keen agrees it's a good idea, and they head their separate ways. Jojo gets back to the beach house and walks inside and tells Dragon and Mr. P what they gave him. Mr. P says they still shouldn't trust them, and Dragon asks when are they going to save Lucas. Jojo tells him he knows where Tar and Lucas are currently at, and Mr. P suggests they go save them now, and Jojo says they should just wait it out. Jojo then tells him he also knows where they have a hoard inside a farm. Mr. P questions it, and Jojo says they keep them there. Dragon says it's good to know, and Jojo agrees and says they should wait until something happens. Michael enters the house to ask Jack when can he see Lucas, and Jack tells him to wait at the hospital. Jack then walks up to Tar and asks him if he thought about what he asked him, and Tar disregards the question and tells Jack that Crackle told him everyone was found, which was a lie. Jack tells Tar that Crackle lied, and Tar said he isn't fit to be his right-hand man, and Jack says he also isn't in a position to be saying that. Tar tells Jack about Crackle, saying he isn't fit to lead, and Jack doesn't believe him at all and walks away. Michael walks into the room with Lucas and tells him he needs to trust him. Lucas asks why he should, and Michael says 3 of his friends escaped a while ago, and he can break Lucas out right now. Lucas is confused at first, and Michael asks if he can walk. Lucas gets up, and then they leave the room. Lucas asks why is Michael helping him, and Michael tells him they both hate Jack, and Jojo is sitting on the balcony when he sees 2 random people walking up to the building. He runs inside to tell Dragon to keep Mr. P safe because people are outside and walks back out. Jojo tries to talk to them when one of them pulls their bow out, and he quickly runs back inside. He tells Dragon if they walk inside, they shoot them no matter what because it's a matter of life and death. They get ready to shoot them, and when they both enter, Dragon and Jojo kill their own person. Mr. P tells them how they shouldn't have trusted him and how they just got played. Jojo agrees with them, and he tells them both to get ready because they need to leave immediately, so they all leave. While escorting Mr. P somewhere, Dragon sees Lucas and Michael walking together. Jojo gets in front of them with the sword, and Michael asks why is he doing that. Jojo says he knows why because he sold him out. Michael says he was on his way to warn them about it. Lucas says it wouldn't make sense to sell them out because he saved them and he's also right there right now. Mr. P suggests that Keen was the one to snitch, and Michael says the right-hand man Crackle sent a patrol this way to check it out. Dragon asks why did he come late if he was planning on warning us, and Michael says it's either he came with Lucas or without Lucas. Lucas starts to vouch for him by saying they can trust him because he saved them after all. Mr. P says they shouldn't trust him until everyone in the group is completely safe, and Jojo agrees. Lucas gets a little aggravated and says Michael doesn't want our trust, he wants to get rid of the same guy that everyone else wants dead. Jojo tells Mr. P that Lucas has a point, and if they want to save Tar then they need an extra person. Jojo then asks Lucas what happened to him, and Lucas tells him how he was isolated and beaten. Jojo then says that's another reason to stop Jack, and Mr. P says no, that's another reason to kill him. Then he proceeds to tell Jojo that he can promise everyone that he will kill Jack, which is something Jojo can't do. Lucas tells Mr. P to calm down, and Michael says they need to make a plan if they are planning to do this. Jojo says they need to get out of the open to somewhere safe, and Michael tells them to follow him. Crackle runs into Jack's house to tell him about Lucas and Michael escaping. Jack questions what happened, and Crackle tells him they randomly disappeared and a patrol that was sent to the beach house hasn't came back either. Jack questions the patrol because they don't have a patrol in that area, and Crackle says he sent them there himself because he couldn't find Jack. Jack says he is lying and gets angry on how Crackle acted without his authority again. Crackle tells him to calm down, and Jack says he will calm down and suggests they head to the pit to teach the person who normally goes on patrols with Michael a lesson, which is Keen. Jack tells Crackle to get Keen so they can head over there. This episode starts with Jack, Crackle, and Keen heading over to the pit. Keen asks why are they at the pit, and Jack says they will see and orders Crackle to bring him up there. Keen tells them both to not kill him because he didn't do anything. Jack then tells them why does he do things without his authority, and Keen says he didn't do anything. Jack continues by saying why does he think he has superiority over him, and Keen is still confused. Crackle tells Keen to stop talking, and Jack says it isn't about Keen. Jack pulls out a bow on Crackle and tells him to move a little bit back. Keen walks down while Crackle questions him, and Jack asks him to tell him what he wants to hear. It then cuts to Jojo and the rest of the group bringing Mr. P to a donut shop, and Michael says the patrol that checks the place has already went by, so they will be good. Jojo asks what they should do, and Michael says they don't have the numbers to attack Jack, and also Mr. P is hurt. They all decide they need to think of a good plan, and Dragon suggests they save Tar and leave after, but Lucas quickly interrupts by saying they should take out patrols to weaken their numbers so they will have a better fighting chance. Michael says it's a good idea, but if they do that, then they need to wait for tomorrow so they can wait for the patrols. Michael says they can set up 2 different groups to take down 2 patrols. Jojo says the only way to save Tar is to do this. Mr. P suggests he helps them, and Michael stops him and says no, he's too hurt. Lucas says if Mr. P is out there, he will be setting everyone up for failure. Mr. P tells Jojo if he stays, then he better make sure Tar comes back safe. It cuts back to Jack, and Crackle tells Jack to not trust him because he has no reason to betray him. Jack says he didn't believe Tar at first, but now everything he heard may be the truth. Crackle yells out by saying he's lying and he's on the other side. Jack says everything Tar told him is correct, and Crackle says Keen was the one to help Michael escape with Lucas and how everything he did was for the greater cause, including him sending the patrol to the beach house. Jack hears this and confirms that Crackle once again acted without his permission and tells him to shut his mouth and to not speak. Crackle says he will never do it again, and Jack says you're right and shoots him. The arrow that hit Crackle makes him stumble back into the horde and they rip him to shreds. Jack walks up to see it all happening and tells him to know his goddamn place. Michael walks up to Jojo and asks him if he's the leader of the group, and Jojo says yeah, but it doesn't seem like it half the time. Michael says he seems like a good leader so far, but then again, he doesn't know much about him. Jojo says if he was a good leader, then Mr. P wouldn't have got shot, and Lucas wouldn't have been tortured if it wasn't for him. Michael then says they are all safe because of his actions, and Tar will be safe next. Jojo tells him he is determined to save Tar, and Michael agrees and says he is determined to put Jack in the ground. Jojo says everyone wants that, and Michael tells them not to stress too much because they have a job to do tomorrow. It returns to Jack asking Keen if he helped Michael escape with Lucas, and Keen said he wasn't a part of it because he was near Tar the whole time. Jack then has suspicion about Keen and says he wasn't trying to find a way to save Tar, and Keen says no. Jack does ask him about them talking a lot, and Keen agrees and continues it by saying he sees what Jack sees in Tar. Jack then limits visitation of Tar only to himself until everyone is recaptured and Michael is dead. Jack then makes Keen in charge of the patrols and tells them to change it up because Michael is definitely going to tell them every patrol route. Jack then threatens Keen by saying if he finds out that Keen is helping them, then he will kill Keen with his own hands, and then he walks away. Jack walks up to Tar and tells him he was telling the truth about Crackle, which was still pretty surprising to him. Tar asks what happened, and Jack says he did what he had to do, and Tar asked if he killed him in the pit. Jack questions why Tar acts like he's never had to kill anyone before. Jack then says he isn't going to let anyone run him over ever again. Tar asks if he's going to kill everyone who gets in his way, and he says yes, he will. Tar reads into it and tells Jack he didn't come here to talk, so what does he want from him? Jack tells Tar that they can see the world the same and wants to confirm if that's true. Tar doesn't give in and Jack decides to leave, but before he leaves, he said he will see the world like him one day. It goes to Jojo sitting outside and Lucas comes out to check on him. Lucas says they are putting a lot of trust in Michael, and Jojo says he's been thinking about it, and after this whole situation, they shouldn't trust people so easily and how they need to adapt to this world better. Lucas asks about Michael and Keen, and Jojo says if they follow through with what they promise, then they can trust them. Lucas hopes they can save everyone, and Jojo adds on by saying hopefully they kill Jack and Crackle as well. Lucas says if he gets a shot to kill any of them, then he will take that shot. Jojo says Mr. P might be the first one to do that, and Lucas asks about what happened between them because he can feel the tension. Jojo told him not to worry about it because things happen and they need to be focused anyways. Lucas heads in to sleep and Jojo stays outside. The next day, Dragon wakes Jojo up and they meet up with everyone to get ready. Lucas asks how are they going to pull it off, and Jojo says Mr. P should stay back while the other four split up into groups of two. Mr. P begs them to let him help, and Lucas says there's no time to argue, so Mr. P can't go. Jojo puts them back on track, and Jojo picks Lucas and has Michael and Dragon go together. Jojo asks Michael where they should go, and Michael tells them to go to this old patrol, and if Keen shows up, to check and make sure they don't hurt Keen. They hear that and immediately head out to get ready. Michael and Dragon get ready to get their patrol, and Michael asks if he's ready to do it. Dragon says yes, and they see the patrol walking up. When the patrol gets closer, they aim and shoot at the patrol. Michael hits his person and Dragon misses. The person looks at them and tries to run away before Michael shoots them before they turn the corner. Michael gets mad at Dragon for missing, and Dragon said he never really trained with the bow. Michael asks why didn't Dragon tell him how he had no practice, and Dragon apologizes for not saying anything before. Michael calms down and says it's okay and they should check the bodies. Jojo and Lucas are waiting for the patrol and they start to question why it's taking so long. Lucas asks if they're in the wrong spot and Jojo says they are 100% in the right spot. Jojo pauses for a second and questions if Michael was lying or not. Lucas asks why would he lie, and Jojo said he could have done that to get Mr. P alone. Lucas and Jojo start hesitating and they both start saying they need to go and start running back. It cuts to Michael and Dragon returning when they see a horde crowding the building Mr. P was hiding in. Michael says they need to separate most of the horde from the building and they need to make them follow them somewhere else so they can get inside and save Mr. P. Jojo and Lucas get back to the building to see a few zombies around the donut shop. After seeing the zombies, they decide to rush up to the building to try and save Mr. P. Jack returns to Tar asking if he's ready to see the world through his eyes, and Tar says if it gets him out of there, then yes. Jack says it's a serious matter, and if he tries anything, he will kill him on the spot. Jojo and Lucas make it to the building, and then they see zombies inside. Once they get inside, they kill all of the zombies and check the room in the back to find Mr. P with a door barricaded. Mr. P gets rid of the shelf in the way, and they enter. Jojo tells Mr. P that Michael lied to them and how a patrol never came, and when they started heading back, they seen the zombies. Mr. P brought up how they have a zombie pit and they could have used a horde to try and kill them. Lucas questions them and says if they wanted them dead, then why didn't they do it when they were all asleep? Jojo does say he has a point, and Mr. P asks where Michael is. They remember that they left Michael with Dragon alone and start to wonder what is exactly going on. Lucas suggests that they should go look for them, and Mr. P says no matter what they say, he is going with them this time, and before any of them can answer, Mr. P stands up and says he can walk at least. Jojo and Lucas agree with Mr. P and they head out. Dragon and Michael are leading most of the horde away. When they get far enough, they both start to run back to the building. Jack brings Tar to two random graves and Tar questions them. Jack tells Tar that those two graves belong to his wife and daughter. Tar plays into it by asking what happened to them, and Jack turns his back to him and tells him how they were killed by a bunch of zombies. He then continues to tell Tar the world has changed and he needs someone like Tar on his side and someone who can understand. Before Jack can turn around, Tar stabs Jack with a homemade shank but doesn't land a killing blow. Jack quickly turns around and pulls out a bow when Tar makes a run for it, and while running Jack shoots at Tar and hits him, but it only grazes him in his arm. Tar gets away and Jack starts slowly walking away. While bringing Mr. P out, Michael and Dragon show up and Jojo asks why no one showed up to their patrol. Michael tells them how someone showed up on their end, and they all question why no one showed up on JoJo and Lucas's end. Mr. P asks where the horde came from, and Lucas asks if they sent the horde from the pit to weaken them. Michael continues to say he doesn't know, and that's when JoJo gets an idea and says they should use their own horde against them and clear out the other buildings of anyone else. Mr. P says it's risky, but it can work, and JoJo says how are they going to lead the horde into a building to even begin with? Lucas says someone could lead them into a building, and JoJo says that is a death wish, but then Michael tells him that the hospital has a way to get to the roof. Mr. P says Michael can do it himself, and Michael says he can't because they need him to lead them through the place and to find Keenan Tar. Dragon tells everyone how he would do it, and JoJo asks if he's sure, and Dragon says everyone here besides him has more of a reason to get Jack, so he can lead the horde into the building. JoJo continues asking him, and Dragon doesn't let up. Mr. P says they don't even know if the pit horde is still in the barn because of the horde they just dealt with. Lucas says the best option is to check, and JoJo agrees, but if they aren't there, then they need to make a new plan. Michael says he can lead Dragon to the barn and meet up with them after Dragon brings the horde into the hospital. Michael then says Mr. P should stay back to keep watch from a distance just in case anyone tries to escape. Lucas says if they find Jack, then they won't kill him right away, so everyone can do what they need to do to him. JoJo then concludes it all by saying that this is it and they can't have any mess ups. They then split up into their groups and head out. Dragon and Michael make it to the barn and find out the horde in the farm is completely there, and before they let them out, Michael asks Dragon if he's confident in leading them, and Dragon says it's for the group and he needs to do it. They walk down and start breaking the barricade to let them all out. Jack returns to his house limping and coughing when he gets inside and sits in a corner to rest when he quickly passes out due to blood loss. JoJo, Lucas, and Mr. P make it to the movie theater, and JoJo says they should clear out the motel and tell Mr. P to stay back so they can do it quickly. When they make it there, they see Keen walking up to Tar's room. They run up to him, and Keen questions why they are there, and JoJo tells them the plan of what's going on. Keen tells them that Tar isn't anywhere in his room, and they check it out. Keen says if Tar isn't there, then he's most likely with Jack, and if he isn't here or the barn, then he has no idea where Tar is. Lucas yells and says they both could potentially be in the theater or the hospital, and they rush back to Mr. P. When they get back, they see Michael waiting next to a tree and ask if Dragon led the horde into the hospital yet, and he says yes. JoJo then tells him how Jack and Tar are nowhere to be found. Lucas says they could be trapped in a building with Dragon, and Michael says if they ever encounter each other, then they could win because it's a 2v1. Lucas says you never know what could happen and starts to wonder where Dragon is and why he isn't on the roof yet. JoJo then looks around and asks the group where Mr. P is when the screen cuts to black and plays the outro. When the outro is over, it shows the building that Jack recently went into with Mr. P, slowly walking up to it and entering the building. So that is The Crafting Dead Season 4 in its entirety. Now I'm not going to say too much because this recap is already long as hell as it is. It doesn't need to be any longer. So I'm just going to show the run times, the release dates for the episodes, you know, the thing that I normally do, and then we're going to quickly end the recap. But yeah, this is the first season of, I would say, the new age of The Crafting Dead. This is where everything really started piecing together, and this is when I was like, oh yeah, I actually want to do a story with this because we already had the 3 seasons before. When we did season 4, I was going to restart because I didn't know if the season 3 cast was willing to do another season. But I remember asking them, they're like, yeah, we miss doing this. Yeah, let's do it. And I was like, wow, we can continue the story and I'm going to try and make it better. And that's what I'm trying to do right now. Season 7, that's almost out. Not to make the video any longer, I'm just going to end it here. I'll see you guys in The Crafting Dead Season 5 recap, and peace.